Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sarah Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Taylor Jones and Kyle Sawyer
of Kitchener's Digital Sabbath Film Company.
Small businesses showcased in Business Unusual, a new documentary series, are survivors. Their owners united in a determination to outlast a pandemic that's forced many others to close their doors for good.
They've now shot 17 episodes in total. 8 will be screened at the Apollo on September 29th, already sold out, and October 7th, where limited tickets are available.
Episodes are also expected to be released online throughout the fall. Featured businesses include
Vincenzo's, Cyclone Spin Studio, Arabella Park Beer, and the Apollo.
I think it's best if we let Taylor and Kyle tell this story themselves. Here they are.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Do you enjoy Bonn Park Podcast?
If so, we would really appreciate it if you
Leave a review.
like, rate, subscribe, but most importantly,
Share directly from the platforms.
with your family and friends. That's the best way to get the word out to everybody, and more people will get to see our show that way. So click those like buttons and share our show. Thank you.
Thanks.
On with the show. This is it. Time helps. It doesn't make it go away.
Yeah.
That's annoying. Was that you or me? That'd be fun if it was you and I was being irritating. I'm going to just put this on silent. Yeah, sure. Watch Marshall while we all play with our cell phones. Marshall doesn't cell phone.
No, I don't have a phone.
Really? That's
Nope.
incredible.
It is incredible.
What? How do you find that?
He does fine.
Yeah, so
Like-
there's
He does fine.
there's times now that are like, I think say to myself, like here I am lost in the country, and there's no excuse for it, right? Like, there's no reason I should be lost, right? Or I find pulling up to somebody on the street now and asking for directions,
Yeah, they think you're a creep.
highly suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to do that a while
Nobody's
ago.
You look
done
like
that.
your average Joe.
Yeah, and just no, highly suspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they don't
Yeah.
believe you, right?
Oh, for
It's
sure.
like,
Yeah.
It's like I'm looking for Coddle's catch and I can't find it.
Yeah.
You know?
Or I'm going to be late to meet you, and there's no way for me to tell you.
Oh, I know. So
There's no way.
my family loves that Korean pop band BTS.
Yeah.
So I'm at Conestoga Mall at Sunrise Records, and the guy's unpacking the box, and these, limited edition kind of things start coming out of the box, and I'm like, well, do I buy it? Or not? I could have just.
Is there still payphone at Conestoga Mall?
No, there isn't. I could have called
Like,
if I could
hold
have called
on.
a hold. So I go home. I go, this is what they have, and they go, well, get your
No
ass,
pictures.
Get your ass back there and buy it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like just at some point it's kind of stupid,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just not making sense. Or I think now how if I was in a car accident or something without a phone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's you should have a phone.
You do. He does have like a drug dealer burner. I've seen once, and it's only for his daughters to call in the
Yeah.
event of an emergency. And I've only seen it once.
Yeah, and it broke. So
Oh, so you don't even have that.
Yeah.
Right? This would all be good content, but we haven't officially started.
yeah. Anyways, I think I'm close. I'm getting really close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm going to text you all fucking
Wow.
day.
yeah,
Marshall, we should do this. Marshall, we should do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be like a
Yeah.
big
Culture
change.
shock.
Yeah, culture
Can't
shock.
remember my
Well, he
first
thinks we're
time.
all zombie idiots, and we are.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
Yeah.
my biggest frustration is, but you get called in to talk about something, and then they're looking at their phone the whole time. It's kind of like, but I just drove here to
Yeah.
meet with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took the time out of my day.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is why we're all a little less productive.
yeah.
Yep.
No, it's true.
Our production company.
Production company.
Called,
yeah.
It's called Digital Sabbath.
Yeah, like a digital Sabbath, like taking a day without your cell phone. You have one every day,
You
I
have a
guess,
digital
without your
Sabbath
cell
every day.
phone. But it's a difference if you use a cell phone every day and then you take that time away from it, I think. But the name originally comes because we're filmmakers, so we're making stories and we have to have a connection to the stories that we're telling. And you can't do that when you have internet brain. You just can't do it. It's like your frontal lobe that does all the scanning and searching that we've all been, evolution has given us. That's what you're using on your social media apps, and you cannot access this part of your brain when you're doing that. And this is where you find those things. Like, this is where the ideas that you want to follow actually come to you. Like if you hear someone say that they can't really take credit for an idea for a great film or a piece of art that they made, or they feel like it occurred to them, it's because it did, right? And they're using that part of their brain. And you just can't do that if you're constantly, using your internet brain. And it was something that I used to do when I was writing like a few years ago, and it was more of like a joke. Like, this, I'm taking a digital Sabbath because I need to have some sort of, inspiration. And then it was just something I said to myself, and now it's like, the perfect sort of name for this venture that we're going on. I think clarity is, it's amazing. Yeah. I haven't actually like done the digital Sabbath for like a very long period of time. And even when I just kind of like take that break, but I still have my phone access to it and stuff. But I first found the name in an article. I think it was in the New York Times, and someone had done it. And they were like, each day you are on this, you feel a little bit more pre-cell phone, if that makes sense. But a lot of us don't know what that feels like anymore, right?
Here we go. So Taylor Jones and Kyle Sawyer, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
We're very happy to have you here. We're excited to talk to you.
We're fans.
We're fans?
Yeah.
We're awesome.
So how did you guys meet?
How did we very first meet? I don't know. It was at a party, I think.
It was at a party.
Yeah, it would have been grade 10.
Yep.
16 years old.
Yep. You were sitting with you were wearing your New York Mets hat.
You remember this vividly.
I do remember it vividly.
I don't.
I think it was at either Nathan Hawks or Scott Tinning's house, and it was a party.
Okay, that's when you met me, but I don't think that's when I met you, if that makes sense.
You met me before.
No, I was at Shannon's house.
Oh, okay.
A different party.
Okay.
So shout out to Shannon.
Shout out to Shannon.
Could have been before or could have been after. I don't know. But
yeah, we met at a party.
Yeah, I was at a party.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yep.
And then you actually didn't go to my high school at that point, but then you transferred over the year after, and then we sort of added Taylor to our friend group at that moment, and
the Outcast.
Yeah, the rest is
We have many storylines that intertwine between our friendship and friends.
Why were you an outcast?
He wasn't. He's just saying that.
I mean, I was a little.
He was the cool kid from a different school.
Yeah, but I left my old school because I felt alone.
I didn't know that.
Wait, you can do that? You can just leave a school because you don't want to be there?
I wasn't involved with anything, and I switched schools, and I turned into I was on student council. I was the grade 11 rep. My very first year I was at this new school. I filmed all the football videos. I was just an entirely different human being.
That's great.
And it was because of...
I did the same thing, though. I went to a different school in grade 9 and then went to this school, Preston, and had a similar experience.
Yeah.
It's something about that school that was just awesome.
Yeah. We had a really good
community.
Everybody, there was no
there was no separate groups. There was no cliques.
Yeah.
It was everyone was invited to everything, and it was great.
What high school was this?
It was Preston High School.
Wow.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
I think it's a bit different there now, but
those things are cyclic at schools. Depends on the staff, depends on the principal.
It's
the
eras,
school community.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But we made a film in grade 11?
That would have been grade 12, so the year
12?
after. Yeah. So Taylor was actually the guy holding the camera at that point.
Yeah.
And he was the cinematographer, let's call him, at that time. And I had to make a film for class for some project.
Yeah.
And we made it together. And those are the fun times.
You got 100%.
It was a good film.
Yeah, you got 100%.
And that's when sort of the fire started for me anyways.
Yeah.
And it was just the process of making it the way we made it as friends and everyone. We spent ungodly hours on that one, even
we did.
as we do now. But
fake blood ketchup,
that whole thing.
It's so bad.
Everyone loves that first experience making a movie. And I think even if you're not a filmmaker, you still enjoy it.
When we staged a dinner in that video, and it had celery sticks and carrots on the plate.
I had to pretend to cook food, and my mom didn't want me to actually cook the food, so I left the food frozen. It was frozen beans, and we served it to the character at the table, who was my brother.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then And then from there, you didn't keep doing video after that.
No, I turned more photo.
Yeah, you went
That's
photo.
when I went photo.
What was the change for you there?
That's a great question. Because I really don't know why I left doing video. But I'm glad that I did change over to photo, because the photo stuff led me to many things that I never thought I would ever do. So it's crazy, like switching back again, I guess it's full circle. But like, I really don't know what was the switch for me. I think probably had to do with my obsession of capturing a moment in time, and I thought just the singularity of a photo was like a simple way to get a message across. I think that you can just do so much with photography without having for someone to just look at it and understand it, and it can be so simple. So I think I liked it for that, probably. But yeah, I was still around video. I just wasn't doing it as much. But like, I was watching you the entire time over like the last 12 years that you've been in it, and always interested. And I think I would even come in like that. You've done a few films that we've had like all of our friends help out.
Yeah, I think you were on our first short film.
Yeah. So
and Victory.
And Victory. Yeah. So, yeah, and so I don't know if I answered your question.
I think you did.
I think I did.
It's fun. It's interesting that you mentioned, that respect for a moment in time, because nobody has more respect for a moment in time than our analog friend Marshall Ward here. And I think you have some interesting thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, I thought maybe could you just kind of in a nutshell talk about Dear Photograph? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I find it something where you share it with somebody, and it takes about a nanosecond to get it. Like,
Yeah.
I get it, right? And then I always think about how the running emotion for me when I look at those photos, the first one is sadness, but I also feel a whole lot of other emotions when I see those photos. Can you talk about what Dear Photograph is and how you explain it to somebody?
Yeah, definitely. So what Dear Photograph is you take a picture, like I say, you have an old photo laying around from the 90s, or hopefully you're still printing out photos now. And you take that photo and you go back to the same spot that the original photo was taken, and you hold it up and you line it up with objects that it lines up with today. It's actually kind of tricky to do, but once you get a hang of it, you can really understand how it works with your focal length. But your iPhone is definitely the easiest way to do it, to take it to your Dear Photograph. But to answer your question about what it is, it's a lot larger than just taking a picture of a picture. It's telling a story, and it's capturing that moment in time and looking back and allowing you to reflect on it in a different way. And a lot of it is sadness, because what people want from it is a way to reconnect with someone that they've lost. And recently for me, I've had this experience where I've lost someone very special in my life, and I see this in a whole different way. And I haven't done it yet. I'm almost afraid to do it, to feel those emotions that people have felt towards me, that they've told me their feelings about, and it chokes me up thinking about it. And so I see it in an entirely different way, because I have these moments that of my grandpa that I'll like cherish forever. So
You don't know until you know.
yeah.
For me, it's not just the people in the photograph. It's first of all, there's a ton of information in both photographs, right? But for me, there's something inherently sad about the whole, just the sight of the passage of time. Like if you put a pretty modern looking photograph on top of something that's black and white,
Yeah.
and there's a hill, and they match up the hill. Sometimes perfectly, sometimes not so perfectly. But even just it could be like suddenly there's a whole pile of houses that weren't there before, or maybe there were a whole pile of trees in the first photograph that aren't there anymore. Just that alone, I'm talking about apart from the people, a little girl with her arm around a dog, and the dog's gone, and the little girl's grown up, right?
Yeah.
A dad riding on a bike with a son. The dad had a 10-year battle with cancer. He's gone. to me, the whole photograph itself can be sad.
It sucks that it's filled with sadness. It really does. But I don't think it doesn't encapsulate that everything. I don't think. I think that you can find happiness from it in ways based off of what is told within the story in itself. There are many funny stories that people have. There definitely is more sadness though. And it's so interesting that there is that sadness, but honestly, I think there's more connection to it because of the sadness and because of, you can get really deep with this and go into like the passage of time, like you just said. Like, we are all here for a certain amount of time. We have these either videos or we have photos of ourselves going every single day through our life. If we have people around us who are taking these photos, and like, that's why, like, I take photos every single day of the most mundane things, because someday someone's going to find my phone and want to look through it and see exactly what happened in my life. And when you have these timestamps with everything, you can help ultimately tell all these stories that we are trying to tell. So you can get like super deep with it and talk about the how within just a simple image of two images combined, you can say a whole lot of valuable things that can either make you connect with somebody, or it can make you tell a story and learn something new in a different way. And a lot of the stories on Dear Photograph are all these very personal stories of what people have either gone through with a sickness or have gone through with someone in their life that has changed their life. And it's incredible. It's incredible what people can say with a simple image and with a caption below it. It's insane.
I probably should have said beautiful sadness. Not sadness
Yeah.
as in looking at a photo of a child in Africa starving, but this is a beautiful sadness.
It is a beautiful sadness.
Kyle, when you first saw this work being started, right, by Taylor, what was your first thoughts on it when you saw this idea start coming?
Well, to be like, the actual photographs, like you say, have that effect, and I felt that as well. But this was at a time when Taylor was like internet crazy, and he tried like maybe 10 different things.
I had 40 domains.
He had like 40 and like a bunch of stuff we won't get into. So honestly, our first thought was like, okay, is this another one of those? And then obviously, you know, it blew up within, was it like less than a year?
Oh yeah. It was a few weeks. It kind of
a few weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, everyone knows where it became into like a worldwide phenomenon and then a book. But yeah, I think I agree with the beautiful sadness label that you gave it. And one thing that just occurred to me now is like, maybe it's because of seeing change, like, and each image does tell a story in 2D, right? And that's very interesting, even without the caption. And it's that change and being able to connect that point with this point. Whereas, you know, if you were traveling through those 2 points in time, you don't notice change. We don't notice change every day around us, right? It's not until you put those two things next to each other that you go, holy crap, things have changed so much. But a lot of them are sad photos. I think that's what people wanted to submit. And it's because they obviously felt some connection to the place, but it would be nice to see some positive ones. Like if you could, you know, here's the present day place that has developed from something that was bad, you know, like, you know, trees where there were no trees before, kind of thing. I don't know. There wasn't a lot of appetite for that though in the blog.
Yeah, people definitely connected with the beautiful sadness.
Yeah.
But there's like a lot of like there, one story, for example, is there's these two boys who one is dressed as a firefighter and one is dressed as a police officer for Halloween. And then there's the Dear Photograph. There's that old photo in the exact same spot, but they're standing behind the photo, and the one brother is wearing his fire suit, and the other brother is wearing his became a police officer, and it wasn't someone who passed away. It was someone who achieved something that they aspired to be as a kid. So there's stories like that where you're like, okay, that's a good feeling right there when you can see that time difference in a photo. It was pretty cool to see something like that.
When I first started photography, what resonated with me so strong is that have been doing that in my head a lot in my life. I feel like I've always been aware of this idea of impermanence and that things are fleeting, and anybody in our life could be gone tomorrow. So there's things I told Sarah that I've done where I'll go to the mall with my family on a Sunday, Conestoga Mall, walk around, and I'll be very present. They can spend all the time they want in stores that don't necessarily appeal to me, but I look at the way light hits the light fixtures, or if you look at the ceilings of some of the stores and the carpets, they can be quite interesting, even if the product on what they're selling isn't. And I watch them shopping, I watch them going in to try on clothes, come out. And I could easily spend hours watching my wife and kids doing this. And then what I do is we all go home, and then the next day, pre-COVID, my wife goes to work and the kids go to school, and I head straight back to Conestoga Mall. And I basically trace those steps. And I don't stay walking around the same store for the same length of time, but I'm imagining, I'm recreating that day over again. And then there's other things I do, like we have 4 cats, right? And I really take time, I look at them sometimes. I'm very aware that right now our 4 cats are 8 years old. And they won't look like this when they're 12. And they won't look like this if they make it to 16. So I often spend a lot of time just really looking at them and saying to myself, wow, these cats still look really young. Yeah. All the cats are healthy. Yeah. And I just really, or it could be something. One more story is Sarah and I went for a walk a while back around the neighborhood.
That's how we meet.
Yeah.
We just, because we met in our neighborhood. That's why we know each other. We met at Bonn Park in our neighborhood. Yeah. But if we need to meet to talk about podcast stuff, we walk the hood.
Cool. Yeah. And then we just sat down on a bench at the end of the walk. And then Sarah goes home and I go home. Well, next day I come out for my walk and I go and I sit down on the bench where I was sitting last time. And in my mind, I'm just recreating this moment that was nothing incredible or anything. It was just us sitting there talking. But I don't want to forget it, and I just want to. So I'm very aware of that. These things, once they're gone, right?
And you know that a cell phone's going to fuck that up, right?
Yeah.
That's a good point. But what does that exercise do for you?
I think it doesn't do a couple things. It's a constant reminder that to just really enjoy this moment of what you're doing, and it gives me some kind of energy, and I don't know. It's like just wanting yesterday back for a moment, I guess, right? Yeah. And
do you have like I feel like it's some sort of like photographic memory in a way where
he has an insane recall of memory.
I have a pretty strong memory of that.
When you went to the whatever Super Slam at the Odd, what day was it and what was the weather? What's it called? I don't know what it's called.
Right, like a wrestling event or something. Yeah, I can remember all those.
Oh, I thought you were going to call it back.
Yeah, Summer Slam or
I don't know. Yeah, okay. How am I supposed to remember them?
Yeah, I think it also comes from when I was 7. My oldest sister was killed in a car accident when a transport truck hit her and her husband. And I think when you're a kid, and especially somewhere around that age, where you don't quite, I think, have a great understanding of death and finality, it can leave this mark on you where you, it's a lesson learned very early in life that life is fleeting and that somebody here today can be gone tomorrow. Yeah. And then you kind of live your life that way, which is different to how some people live their life, never really thinking that the people you're around could be gone. Yeah.
I really wish that before my grandpa passed, I really wish that I had like my great grandmother that passed and my dad's mom who passed, but I didn't know them as well because I was really young. But I wish that there's so many things. I have notes in my notepad of questions that I wanted to ask him because he was sick and I never did. And there's all these things that I want to go back and do. I wish it sucks that I like wanted to have this feeling of knowing what someone who was really important to you pass away feel like at like a different age, but I wish I knew because like now like I'm going to ask these questions to my dad and to my mom and to my grandma and to all these people that I love so much. But I can't even imagine being so young and how that would trigger a brain to this is why you do those things. You want to relive yesterday and reimagine everything that was in those good moments that you were living, right? So
yeah. Thanks. I never really thought it all that way through.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's a very interesting exercise. I've never I've heard of people revisiting, but they're very, one-off moments that you wouldn't think twice about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is part of your routine.
You are Dear Photograph IRL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means in real life.
Yeah, I know. I do know that.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know IRL in real life?
I was like, IRL, like a website? No, I was like, no, that's a URL.
Oh, yeah.
That's where my mind went right away.
That's fantastic.
Oh man,
And
that
I
was
have
your one.
some-
That was your one today in this interview. That I'll let slide.
Okay.
When you have a
They
big
can
project
cut
like
that
that, and you move on to the next one,
Yeah.
there can be sometimes a door opens and it springboards you to the next project, or sometimes the next project is unrelated, or sometimes it can feel like a bit of a letdown, as in, or where do I go from here?
Yeah.
So creatively, what happened for you to collaboratively once
How
you
did it
were-
come together?
Yeah.
Not until this year.
Yeah.
Not until January.
Yeah, it was the time from grade 12 until literally like 6 months ago.
What's the inception? How did it happen? Was it for the Business Unusual series, or was it a different project?
No,
it's a
actually,
project.
people would come to Taylor for video work, and he's a photo guy. So he would contact me and I would help him out.
Yeah.
And then it was so casual
Very casual.
until it would have been, I guess Business Unusual is really like the bigger thing that we started with. And
Yeah.
that was in May.
Mm-hmm.
But we had talked about that about a year ago.
Yep.
At the beginning of the pandemic, the idea sort of came up because you're always looking for the stories are just pre-built. They're there. Like you have the character who's the owner of this business, and they've given everything to it, and the stakes are high because if they lose it, they might lose everything. And
I'm going to interrupt and say Marshall's a major horror fan. He has a collection he'll never have the hours in his life to watch. And he says the scariest thing in the world is...
Like the most subtle moment, like a piano key in a room, and a completely empty room like this, and just suddenly, boom, it goes
We're not
down.
on the same wavelength.
Oh,
yeah, I think she was leading you somewhere else.
yeah, scariest moment.
That is scary.
Yeah, I was thinking that, like something just...
You said to me the most frightening thing would be starting your own business and running a
Oh,
restaurant.
sorry, I thought we were talking...
What a great horror.
That would be a great horror film.
Yeah.
I really thought you were on there with me. I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah, sorry about that. And,
No, don't be.
And yeah, that is the most scary thing,
Yep.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
That'll be fun later.
That's
I
a
think-
great idea for Halloween.
Go as a chef,
Yeah.
a horror chef.
No, just have like a bookkeeping like in your laptop
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
deliveries. Sorry,
Yeah.
please continue.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that was the first thing that drew us to it, because it's they're going to be great stories, and there are a lot of these characters. They're fighting every day to keep their livelihoods going, but it's sort of like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, and I love that type of character because it's like, what motivates you to keep going? Why do you keep doing something that might be futile?
Why aren't you just sort of giving up and applying it a
Right.
box store or something?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I just love that idea of that character, and I just sat on it for too long maybe, but also maybe it was serendipitous. By the time May came around, I had left my previous job, and I was free with time, and I don't know. And where the world was at that time was really good as well, because everyone could think back on the year. So they were more, I guess they could, instead of, them being in it, if we were to talk to them during, lockdown number 2, first of all, they would be really busy. And second of all, they would probably have a very negative view. But now there was some light coming, and people could be a little more positive and also think back. So it was like kind of the perfect moment, I think. But then once we got started and we did our first episode, which was with the Apollo and Kara, we interviewed there. She's the general manager. And we were like, okay, this was right. This is a character who literally cares so much about this business, and she's not even ownership. And we knew we just had something. And since then, we've done 14 episodes, and all 14 of them, every single business owner has been the character I imagined that they would be.
I think they're actually more than we would imagine.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, above and beyond. Because like sometimes when you interview people, as you guys know, you interview so many people, they might have a secondary agenda, or they might be nervous, they might be worried about what they're talking about. Especially in film, if you're interviewing somebody who's giving a message that's not their own, you don't really get the best of them. But when you're talking to someone about their personal business, man, you get some like really great conversations. And it's that because their businesses are what they wanted to bring, what they wanted to put out in the world. They're really an extension of themselves. Some of them obviously saw an opportunity to make money, blah, blah, blah. But I would say at least all of them in some way, their business is part of themselves, and they're putting it out into the world every day. So you ask them about it, and it's like, they'll go off. We'll talk for a very long time. So it's been great.
We're going to take a moment to hear from this episode's sponsor.
Do you think you're brave? Think you're not afraid of things that go bump in the night? Prove it. Test your courage at Bingemans Screen Park if you dare. Or do you think you might get the heebie-jeebies in the twisted maze that awaits you? Might you feel a tingle on the back of your neck as you trek through the dead marsh? There are creatures in those woods, They can see you, but you can't see them. Not right away. Let's see how brave you are at the slaughter shed. Don't worry too much. If you just can't take the frights, you can calm your nerves and refuel at the Blood Bar. You may not be quite as brave as you think once you step in Screen Park. You've been warned.
Marshall, I know you and your family are big Bingemans Screen Park fans.
Yeah, I'm a huge horror fan, and Screen Park is hailed as Ontario's most terrifying outdoor attraction, and my family can vouch that it is indeed a haunting and ultimately delightful walk in the woods. And the creators of Screen Park have done such a remarkable job of creating an experience that feels simultaneously scary and safe, which I appreciate.
So if your family likes to be scared as much as Marshall's does, tickets and packages can be purchased online through bingemans.com.
Screaming season is here.
And now back to the show. I have to say that is exactly who I am. I'm terrible on the spot. Like, run into somebody in the street, God help me, or parties. I'm the worst at parties, the worst. Pretty good at meetings, but I talk circles around myself. But if you ask me about my work and the content and the tech and the geek part of it, perfect, eloquent. Yeah. I can share all day long. But it's the chit-chatty part and the, talking about yourself and like, who are you as a person type talk that I just fail miserably. And we've seen that on the podcast. We've seen, because we don't send the questions ahead of time. We don't have people flesh out their ideas. No, we just want to have a natural conversation and, put you on the spot a bit, I guess. And we've seen a lot of people who are nervous,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you talk to like the owner of the Apollo, for example, like you probably think, well, that's somebody's dream, right? Mm-hmm. And they took all these chances to get there. They probably heard some negative things said along the way, or that won't work, and but they just kind of persevered. Is that kind of
it's scary?
Yeah. Is that
the Apollo had to turn into everything other than what the Apollo actually was?
Yeah. Think of theaters last year. Yeah. Couldn't be a theater. Yeah. So they were a bar and a delivery service and sold merch, everything.
Yeah, we pivoted to buying our popcorn from Princess. And, if we were going to have our own movie night, we tried to support all those businesses that were trying to make changes.
And that's the whole other side of it is how, especially around here, like how community-oriented everything is and how much people love their small businesses here. And we heard these stories about how much support the community actually gave during this time of need. Yeah. And it's great to see because you don't see that in a ton of places. But I know that here it's definitely a valuable thing that we have and we strive in the region
Oh yeah.
That's my perspective of it.
And the community doesn't know this, but businesses were kept alive because of them.
Yeah.
Many of the businesses we talked to, some of them had zero government support.
Yeah.
A lot of them said that they wouldn't have survived if they didn't get government support, but the ones that didn't get it still survived. And it's just because, and this is very interesting, because you would think, you look at a business and you're like, okay, you have your financials figured out. You know that if you have slow days and whatever good days, you're going to be good. But then this pandemic has really made us realize that like a good dinner service for one restaurant could pay that rent for that month. It's day to day.
Yeah.
And that all comes down to the community, making the choice to eat local, for example.
One of our episodes is about, it's a husband and wife duo from Waterloo, and they both have jobs during the day, and they started this thing called We Are All in This Together, and they had a Facebook page for their neighborhood Facebook page, and they were friends with Elvis Ellison from Ellison's Bistro, and I think it was a Tuesday night he did his jerk chicken special that was like, it was like $10 or something, and so this couple, they decided to get their friends and family together and all go in on one like big order. And I think the first week they had 32 orders.
I don't remember the numbers.
Yeah, but it was something like that. And then they did it the next week and it grew even more. And they did it the next week and it grew even more. And then they were covering a ton of businesses, and they would
like hundreds of orders.
End up getting like 500 orders. And they had volunteer drivers who would pick up all the food and deliver it within 45 minutes to all these people that have signed up on Facebook in this Facebook page for this neighborhood group. And they literally, what you just said about surviving the month, paying rent, that one day saved that business for that month or multiple months because of people in the community who cared and wanted these businesses to still be here once we get through this thing.
Yeah, you can't overstate the impact that had on an individual person as a business owner.
It was so huge. So huge.
That's amazing.
I'm sitting here goosebumps. I don't think it's the AC.
No. Yeah, you'll hear a lot of AC, motorcycles, and there was some rain there happening for a little while in this episode. Marshall and I were so humbled, even with our little show here. This is a little homemade show that we're doing, and the businesses that were sponsoring us throughout COVID, like, these are small family businesses. And I remember Marshall saying, like, I can't believe that they're supporting this show during this time.
Yeah, for sure, right? Like it's not the big box stores that are going to help us. So
no.
I know some people in my life who, I've known them for 30 years, I guess, kind of thing. And they do a job for a while, and that doesn't seem to work out. And they try this again, that doesn't work out. And
Wait, you're talking about me?
Yeah, and they're good people. Some of them are. I used to teach life drawing, so with people who model nude for artists. So some of these people, they move around a lot, and they never do anything for too long. And one of them said to me one time, they said, I just feel like I kind of fall through the cracks of society. I can't put my finger on it. Like they work pretty hard at what they do, but one thing doesn't seem to lead to the next. They just feel like they kind of fall through the cracks. Have you not come upon some businesses that, for whatever reason, maybe they had integrity and great ideas, but with the pandemic, for whatever reason, they just couldn't make it,
Yeah, we haven't. We've only done businesses that have still survived. So far.
It would be interesting to reach out and find the ones that didn't make it and find out why and how that happened.
We thought about that too. But then there's some businesses that we're talking to that are still in peril, right? They're still kind of teetering on the edge, and we didn't really get into the whys of it, like why do they think that they might not survive, because it's all related back to COVID in our stories anyways. But we felt like there was a bigger thing here, maybe beyond COVID, especially when we first started, because a lot of the conversations were like, here's the big climax, here's the big evil that you have to overcome is COVID. But their story would be about something else. Everyone has a different challenge to come across. So we were thinking about how could this survive post COVID? And there would be stories like that. What makes some small businesses fall through the cracks? I think it's a very interesting topic, and people have an appetite for it, because I think it all comes back to small businesses are people putting something out there, and everyone kind of has a attachment to that in some way. So I think there's an audience for it.
Yeah. And the big thing that we've shown a few people our first cuts of some of the first episodes that we shot, and the first thing that they say is they watch and they're like, I'm going there tomorrow. And I'm supporting, and that's the whole reason that we wanted to do this, was because we needed to shine spotlight on these people who need to hear all these stories of all the shit that happened over the last year. And
we had one business owner was in the episode talks about it was her birthday, but she was too tired to do anything. And people were like, oh, I just want to buy her a birthday present. Like her birthday's coming up. And it's just like that want to reach out and help. It means that it was just kind of validating. That's like having the effect.
You feel like you've been able to wrap your head, like you've been doing this documentation of something 2020, 2021, but you have no idea how this will be looked back on in 10 years. None of us do, right? But you feel like you're doing important work, don't you?
I literally thought about this yesterday. I was watching one of our episodes over again, and I was like, I cannot wait for 10 years from now to look back and just see what has changed. It'll be like a dear photograph for this time period for me, looking back and being able to be like, damn, this business is still going, and it's even but like Apollo is huge now, and like, you don't know, but that I think, and for me, like, that's something that I think about. I'm like, where is this going to be in 10 years, and how will everything look? Will it like, but it's nuts to think what it would look like.
Yeah. Well, and it also reminds me of my desire to see things from, the 50s and 60s, or like, if I remember when the pandemic started, trying to find anything about the Spanish flu, and there was not obvious. There was, people documented it because it's a big thing that happened, but not like today, right? And so in 10, 20, 30 years from now, we'll be able to look back and have a ton of documentation of this period. So I'm definitely happy that we're able to have some sort of stamp on that. Yeah, for sure.
And we have people interested in like using it to show as an example of like these are the things that happen to a business.
The struggles.
Yeah, and these are the struggles that happen during this time, and use it as a tool to help entrepreneurs learn as well. So there's all these different things that it will be used for sure. But we're starting to think just like in the name itself, Business Unusual, and how can we keep documenting the unusual business of like what we're going through right now and into the future, and what does that look like?
Because business changed too, and it's going to change. It's not going to go back to how it was. Like, a lot of things that changed are going to remain, and the way businesses are going to be done in the future is going to be totally different, as it is different now compared to how it was 20, 30 years ago.
I want to document this so I can come back and listen to it.
You are?
Even remote working, like, I will never sit in a cubicle again. I will never do it.
No, yeah.
So do you hear that, Sarah Geidlinger of the future?
Yeah, good riddance, cubicles.
I don't miss mine. Sorry, everybody near my cube. I don't miss it at all.
I guess when you talk to business owners, you think about how whatever it is they imagined, whatever their fears were on what could come their way pre-COVID, meaning competition. Suddenly this product goes way up in price. What are we going to do when that happens, if that happens? All these, there must be 1,000 little variables that could affect your business.
Yeah.
But they never imagined a pandemic.
No.
Just like nobody imagines an earthquake suddenly splitting the city in half, right?
No.
Is that what you find, that nobody really had any idea of how that could affect their business? Yeah.
Yeah, it blindsided every single person. Yeah.
All of us.
And even after it was going, there was still a lot of denial. Everyone, even when it was already arrived in Canada, and I think there was already like, we're going to lock down for 2 weeks, I think was the first idea in March. Even after that, they're like, it's going to be fine. And nobody would have predicted I don't think any of these businesses were prepared for it, for sure.
Did this project lead into is it the Creative Capital of Canada series that you're doing, or am I what is it called? What is it? What are you doing?
Creative Capital Canada series, yeah.
All
that
right.
actually happened at the same time, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kind of also these two projects together kind of led us to really thinking about getting the band back together and doing this again. Yeah.
Digital Sabbath.
Yeah.
So tell me about that series.
Do you want me to go for it?
Tell us about it.
So Creative Capital of Canada came to us, and they want to inspire the youth. And obviously the best way for us to do that is through video. And so we've thought about kind of what it would, how we could look back on past innovations and past creators who have done worldly of a different things here that have had like a huge, I think a huge impact on something from around the world. So like Electrohome, they created the screens that first went to space, and people don't know that. There's no video about it online.
The screen stayed on Earth, but
The screen stayed on the Earth.
it helped
know
people
how,
go to
but
space.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. And things like the Blue Bin. The Blue Bin was
launched here.
Yeah, it was launched here, and you search online. There's no video about that. Things like Bauer skates, Hespeler hockey sticks, and there's all these incredible things that have happened here in KW, and that have had a huge impact. And there's not a way for us or for kids to learn from that and dream of them doing that themselves, looking into the future.
Here in Waterloo
Region. So we have a 6-part series that's going to be coming out that with the Creative Capital of Canada that will dive into all different kind of subjects that can be used in schools to help kids. And there's a break and create session at the end where the kids will have an opportunity to dream big of what they want to do with this subject matter, or if they want to do something with this subject matter, and kind of help plant that seed in their head to dream big, because it can happen here. So I think that you got anything to add?
That well sums it. Yeah, it's been commissioned by Hip Developments, and like I think he would say that his purpose behind it is because the region has done some amazing things, but everyone's sort of very humble, or we don't talk about our own accomplishments.
Yeah.
And you kind of need that to an extent to keep the stories going, to inspire the next generation, and to really make change. So that's the idea behind it. And it's a kids series for kids 8 to 12 or around that age. And it's super fun. It's like a mixed media thing. And it's like,
explain that part.
So it's kind of like we have to tell this story, and everything is very direct and it's very big. So it's like, if this is a building in Waterloo, it's the biggest in Canada. And it's like, very using a lot of examples, and so that people, the kids can, weigh that against something and get a grasp for how important this place really is. And then the visuals that go with it, it's like, I don't care what it is. It could be, if it's a picture, sure, put the picture in there and then blow it up, draw on it. So we have some animation going on top of things. And sounds, like we have, there's a picture of a pop can, and put the sound of the pop can opening and draw some pop flying out of it. It's like, it's really freeing to not have so many rules, and you can kind of be as fun as you want to be. And we also have some live action too, which is really cool. We have experts that we find in each field, and we sit down and interview them, which is my favorite thing to do. And it's like, again, talking to an expert about something that they're an expert in is a very easy thing to do, because they're going to give you such great answers, as you guys know. So we have that element of it too, and that's pretty fun. And like the expert might move their hands like this, and then something gets drawn on the screen. Like there's no rules to it. So it's been very fun to make that, in contrast with Business Unusual, which is like a cinematic doc, very, more serious, I would say.
I had one more question about Business Unusual.
Can I just for a second?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I
go
hate
for it.
to interrupt you, but then we'll get back to Business Unusual. Yeah. Just there's usually a point in the show where we geek out when somebody starts talking about the technicality of what they're doing. So, so what are you using? So what are you editing with? Who's animating? How are you doing that process? Are you drawing? What's happening?
Yeah, actually, I bought a Wacom and I just did some of the drawing myself. But we also have an animator, Alex Marshall, who's doing our animations for us. This is for
Is that like an InDesign maybe, or
he does After Effects.
After Effects? Yeah, that actually makes more sense.
We're editing it in a mix of Resolve and Premiere, I think. We have another editor working on some episodes. I think he's in Premiere. I'm using Resolve, and Resolve has tabs. Like, if I'm getting too technical, let me know.
We go here.
It's amazing. Resolve 17. If anyone's an editor, you should give it a shot, especially if you've been using Premiere forever, and Double, especially if you've been using Final Cut. Basically, there's a tab that's called I forget, Fusion, I think, and it's a version of After Effects. And you just go from your timeline to Fusion and draw something on the screen, and then you go back to your timeline, and then there it is. Instead of pulling from Premiere into After Effects and back. So that's been really cool. I recommend Resolve. And then we also have it's him and her as the agency who's kind of guiding this project, and they had some animators work on some things too. So there's some elements and animations coming from them, and it's all coming together. And the kind of inspiration, I don't know if you've seen Explained on Netflix, but I love that, where they're like, we have to explain this topic in an interesting fashion, and it's like, I don't care what we use to get it done, graphs, pictures, everything, right? And it's a very freeing way to, it's a refreshing way to tell a story, because you'll think, in Business Unusual, think too much about, because you never want to just give someone a message. You want them to find the message, and that's when the story sticks. And in BU, that's the case, and in this, it's the case too. But it's also like, I want you to know this. I'm just going to show you a picture of it. So it's kind of this nice contrast.
It's like that thing where you say, like, or I think we've said it before. It's like this is how we should explain things to adults.
That's what I go to. I go to the kid videos on YouTube when there's something I really don't understand. Yeah. Like when we interviewed Colin Hunter from Perimeter Institute, the executive director of communications at Perimeter Institute. And I'm like, I know nothing about what happens in that building. I need to find a child video. And that's what I did.
That's the way to consume to like.
That's how you should construct your messaging in your stories to all people, not just kids, because clear message and concise message is the easiest thing to get across, and then tell a story, to make it stick.
And I'm an artist, so I need visuals. I love that you said that you can't just feed someone the message. Me and Marshall were just talking about that, and Marshall had a good point about what did you say?
It was Malcolm Gladwell on Hot Ones.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, we love Hot Ones.
Same.
He said something that bugs him about podcasts. Sometimes he says they assume that the listeners are dumb, right?
Yeah.
He says people aren't dumb. You don't need to explain everything to them. What I want to ask you about your Business Unusual project is just as fascinating as these stories are about persevering and creativity, which is what must be a running thread through these stories, is also there's businesses out there that just seem to have not been affected. And the one I think about in town is Sonny's Drive-In on Weber Street in Waterloo. All the owner, Paul Noosa, had to do was put a piece of plexiglass up, and just the very nature of how Sonny's is run, his sales this year are exactly the same as last year, which are the same as the year before. Nothing changed for Sonny's by the very nature that he didn't have seating. It was just walk in, get your burgers and fries, and leave. Like and that's kind of really interesting too. That it's almost like there's a handful of businesses out there that were almost
pandemic proof.
Yeah.
We came across a few of those. One of them we ended up not doing an episode on for that very reason, because they're like, we've never had Uber Eats, or we've never had that. We've never had stuff on our website. It's like, you come to our place and you know what we give you, and we've always done takeout. So that was interesting. And then we've also had some businesses that completely pivoted and are now thriving. I don't know if you can say thriving per se, and some that are busier than they've ever been. And, dealing with different problems, like, wood prices went up, and then nobody could get yeast and like weird things like that. Right. And that, it causes certain industries to like really take off. And that is a challenge in itself that we've been talking to some people about too. It's really interesting.
I imagine you've collaborated with other people in your lives on projects, right? And but when a collaboration really works, like this one does, like you're working on multiple projects here, right?
Mm-hmm.
That not even sure if you're aware of it in the moment, just how incredibly special that is. Like when you think about all the people in your life, how many of them could you actually really collaborate with? Like
I wouldn't do this with anybody else.
Right. I mean, it just wouldn't work for any number of reasons.
Yeah.
So when it does work,
Yeah.
to me, that's something pretty special.
Yeah.
Are you able to somehow, as we start to wind down here, even talk about how what's happening there? How does that even work?
You know, maybe this is the moment to think about it.
Yeah. I've thought about it because I've always usually worked on my own or worked at a company. I've never been in a partnership like this. And
Me neither.
yeah, we cover a lot of land together. And the thing about, like, I know people advise against not starting companies with your friends, but with us, like, I've never felt like more like level-headed, and like just instinctively I know who you are, and I know what makes you tick, and I know what pisses you off, and I know all these things. So it actually, I feel like it makes it a lot easier. No, not pissed off. I know, you know what I mean. But like and knowing that and having that understanding, like I feel like at least I feel way more comfortable working with Sawyer than I do like thinking about working with someone else and trying to understand. We have like 10 plus years of friendship where we can understand each other, and this is all very new for us, and everything's moving very quickly as of right now. But like even the other day or yesterday, I think we were like, this is the right fucking thing to do. Like we know how we both work. We have our two sides of how we do things, and it meshes really well together.
It does.
Yeah.
And a good point that like there's not much of a learning curve with each other because we've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
And another good point was that we cover more land because he can do this while I do this, which is really important. And I've had some collaborations before where you're both the same, and it doesn't give you that opportunity to spread out, and Taylor, like his networking ability and his ability to just get things done is incredible. And like just get on the phone and talk to somebody, and it's like, okay, we got this person, we're shooting them on Friday. It's like, because filmmaking is coordinating, it's a ton of coordinating, problem solving, and he's just got this like natural knack for it. So that's been really, really nice.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
That's not true.
No, it's not. You have said like nicer things than that.
Yeah. But everything's been happening so quickly. I haven't had a moment to think about it. It's like, we're working every day, and ever since we first made that first phone call about Business Unusual, I think.
Yeah, that's when
or before that was CCOC. That was a lot of coordinating too. But it's like, every time you're interacting with them, you're coordinating something.
Yeah.
So
Kyle also just had a baby.
And had a baby.
And
Congratulations.
So
thank you.
It's like, I always say jokingly, like, oh, we got to do this for Lewin, like, but like literally, like we for me, I'm like, this kid is my nephew here pretty much. I want to build this business with you, so he can go to school and do the amazing thing, like maybe the same sort of things that you've done when you grew up, right? So
that'd be a beautiful thing. Yeah,
I don't have a child, so like I feel like I'm like in the family now, and like we're like pushing for the kids.
It's a purpose beyond yourself.
Yeah.
I'm glad you feel that way.
I do. I joke about it, but I'm pretty serious.
Yeah.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.